Hello, 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 and happy Sunday, everybody. How are you? My name is Scott Pinyard. I am the head coach here at This Naked Mind, and I am here like I am pretty much every Sunday to talk to you about what I've been thinking about, things that I've seen in our groups, comments that I've seen, stuff that people are struggling with, ideas, concepts, all of it. That's what I talk about. Basically, I get on here and ramble for like half an hour and it's fun and I like it. So first, I want to say hi. Second, I want to invite you, if you are watching this live, go ahead and say hi to me. I love hearing from people and where they're at. I love hearing about where you're at on your journey, and I'm always happy to answer questions. So I am going to jump right into the second part. This is the second part of our series, my series on the holidays, right? How do we do the holidays alcohol free, especially if this is a first time for you or if you're new to the process. I want to tell you all about it, and we will dive into it in a second. But first, I want to talk about a subject that comes up a lot around the holidays. And it says, "Hey, Joanne, how are you?" It's moderation. Through this entire process, when, it took me about 6 years from the point when I said, you know what, I need to do something about this, until the point where I said, all right, I like this has to change. Hey, Annie from Calgary, how are you? And one thing that I tried over and over and over was moderation. And now we don't have a stance on moderation. As a matter of fact, we've seen people be able to successfully change their drinking and moderate, but it's not for everyone. And so very often in challenging situations like this, where people are thinking, okay, man, I'm going to be, at relatives' house and other people are going to be drinking, this whole idea, this concept of moderation comes up. So we wrote a handy guide for you, and I want to give that to you for free. So if moderation is something that you're thinking about, I highly, highly recommend going and checking out 6 vital things you need to know about moderation according to science. You can get a free digital copy today, right now, at canimoderate.com. And I really want to encourage you, if this is on your mind, I really want to encourage you to read this, because I think the information that's in here is indispensable. And I think it's something that can really, really help as you're trying to navigate your holidays. So canimoderate.com, go check that out. All right, here we go. So last week on this live, I covered what I call the mental game, right? The mental game of going through the holidays. And by the way, I've had a few people point out to me like, hey, if I'm not in the States, then, there's really just like one holiday. And if I don't celebrate Christmas, there's really none. That's totally fine. And I want to be clear with you. Every single thing that I'm saying here can work for a vacation, can work for family get-togethers, can work for office get-togethers. So if the holidays aren't your thing, still definitely worth listening to and engaging with, because there's a lot here, I think, for anyone to take away. So, wow, not a lot of comments today, guys. Say hi to me. Tell me how you're doing. I'd love to hear from you. So, as a quick review of last week, what we talked about on the mental game, right? First, it might suck, right? It might be stressful. You might feel pressure. You might not be sure. You might be nervous. All of these things might be coming up. That is okay. And the sooner that you can allow yourself not to resist that, but to work with it, that's a big piece of the mental game. So that's piece number 1. Piece number 2, hey, Leslie, is work to meet your own needs, right? Work to meet your own needs. It may be that maybe you're like, I'm going to be uncomfortable or whatever, right? Identify what that might mean and do the work to do that. Don't put yourself out. Accept that it might suck, but also kind of balance that with standing up for yourself and doing what you need to do. Hey, David, how are you? Hello, Joanne, another Joanne. And the third piece, right, was pay attention to your focus, right? What you focus on is what you get. You have a lot more control over your experience than you thought. So going into this holiday season, if it's a trip for you or staying with family, whatever it might be, ask yourself the question, am I focusing on the negative? Am I focusing on how hard this is? If that's what that constant thought is in your mind, bad news for you. You're going to feel that way the entire time. So pay attention. You find yourself in those loops, figure out a way to shift your focus. Maybe it's to, if you do the Christmas thing, watching the kids unwrap presents, whatever it might be for you, pay attention to your focus because that has such a huge impact on your experience. Hey, Nancy, how are you? So those were the 3 pieces of the mental game. And now I want to talk about some concrete steps that you can take, actions that you can take to make this entire thing a little easier on you and to learn a lot along the way. So step number 1, tell someone. It's funny, like I very often see the case where people are trying to shift their relationship with alcohol and they try to do it on their own. And I get this. I totally understand that. I did the same thing for years. But here's the thing, right? We are going to go through these experiences. Maybe it's a holiday experience for you. Maybe it's a vacation, whatever it might be. And other people are going to be around. And one of the things that alcohol does to us is it makes us feel alone. And so when we go through this process, right, we go through this process of changing our relationship with alcohol, and maybe it's difficult for us, that makes us feel alone to begin with. But then you think about going and, being with the whole family and everyone's laughing and having a good time, and you've got all this going on in your mind, that's going to make you feel even more alone, right? And I'm not saying like walk into the room and tell everybody, hey, everyone, I'm not drinking. I'm talking about one person, right? One person that you can connect with, that you can confide in. And again, you don't need to tell them everything. Even something as simple as like, hey, you know what? I'm trying not to drink and it makes me feel a little uncomfortable. Can I have your support? Right? Even something as simple as that makes a huge, huge difference, right? This could be a partner. This could be a family member. Having someone you care about who knows that you are struggling can make a giant difference, right? It's just the connection. It's like literally, you don't even necessarily need to have big, long conversations about it. You just know that there is someone else in this room with me right now who understands how I'm feeling, who knows what I'm going through. So that is one piece of it. Now, a lot of people will say, hey, you know what? I go with my family. I'm not sure how to do this. Like everyone drinks. What's this going to be like? Right? All of these conversations come up. If that is you, if you feel like, hey, I don't have anyone around that I can talk to, I don't necessarily have anyone that I can reach out to, then think of widening that circle a little bit. Right? Maybe tell a friend that you can text. Maybe come here to the group, right? Tell the group, oh man, I'm going to this place for the holidays and it's going to be difficult for me. How can I, I want to come here and talk about it. You will get a ton of support. So no matter whether it's someone in the space that you're going to be in, or if it's here online or over text message, it will give you extra strength to know that other people know about it. Right? It will give you extra strength to know that you can reach out to those people. I remember for me, like when I first quit drinking, just knowing that my wife knew about it and being able to just give her a hug was huge. So that is concrete tactic number 1, tell somebody, right? And that leads me to concrete tactic number 2, which is talk about it. Talk about it. I want to go first. David has a great comment here. He says, it's all in how you look at it. Being around drunk people is an excellent reminder of what I once looked like. When they get to the point where they begin to annoy me, I politely excuse myself. Yeah, that is huge. It's so funny because when you're in it, you don't realize you're like that. But yes, being around it can be enlightening, shall we say. That's a really good point, David. So my second tactic is to talk about it, right? Have a conversation. And this could be that you're writing. This could be that you're talking. This could be that you're just expressing it somehow, whatever that might be for you. Talk about it. express how you're feeling, right? Talk about your fears, talk about what's going right, talk about what feels good, what doesn't feel good, right? This can come in so many different forms, but expressing what's going on inside, while sometimes can be very scary, is also incredibly cathartic. Right. So the way that I talk about it with this, oh, by the way, I didn't even mention journal too, right? You can do that as well. Any way that you can take the thoughts and emotions that are happening in here and get them out there, that helps tremendously. Because here's what happens, right? When you're in the middle of the moment, when you're in the middle of that Thanksgiving party or that Christmas party or wherever you are, family gathering, office party, there's a lot of stuff going on around you, right? There's probably people drinking, there's people laughing, dancing, whatever. All this stuff is happening. And a lot of it is making you think, oh man, maybe I should, right? You start having these thoughts of maybe it will I or won't I? And then these emotions come up because you're having these thoughts, and these emotions are like, some guilt and some shame and maybe even some excitement. Like, it's a lot. There's a lot going on. And so what's happening in your brain is this swirling mass of emotion and thought and desire and repulsion. Like, all of this is happening. Now, here's the thing. When you're in that moment with that swirling mass in your brain, it is really hard to make order of it and understand what a process forward would look like for you. It's really difficult to do. And so when you speak about it, when you write about it, when you engage with it with someone else, you have to take this entire swirling mass and put it in some sort of order, right? Put it in some sort of structure. And when you do that, things start to become clearer to you. And that structure can be language, right? That structure can be like having to put sentences together and then make sentences into paragraphs starts to actually bring some order to that chaos that might be happening inside. When you do that, you feel more clear, right? You feel more clear. Second, there is an element to unburdening yourself of this stuff. So whoever that might be, maybe you can call a friend, maybe you can come here to the group and write a long post about how you're experiencing what you're experiencing. Whatever that might be for you, check it out, right? Take a moment to really engage with how you're feeling and express it, right? When you express it, it makes more sense and you feel lighter in and of yourself. So number one is tell someone. Number two is keep talking, right? Keep having that expression, that conversation, that journaling, whatever that might be for you. It makes a huge difference. Number three, Leslie's a step ahead of me here. Leslie said, this is hopefully going to be my first alcohol-free Christmas. That's awesome. My plan is to busy myself on days where I'd normally be overeating and drinking with exploring on lots of new walks instead. Yes, Leslie, you literally just got to my point number three before I did, which is this: make a plan. So, last week I talked about this idea of meeting your own needs. And sometimes they're obvious and sometimes they're not. But taking the time before you do whatever you do, whether it's for the holidays or travel or anything like that, taking the time to say, you know what, every time I go, I feel X. Right? There's one thing that I wish were different. There's one way that I think I could support myself better. Make a plan for those things, right? So I'll give you an example, right? My wife loves my family. There's not a problem there, but she really can get overloaded, right? So like just like, because there's a lot of activity, there's a lot going on. So we all go and stay somewhere, and it's just like, wow, it's very, very kinetic. It's very fun. For me, it's energizing. For her, though, she needs to give herself some space. And so she's realized this. And so we talk about it, right? She told me, she said, hey, you know what? Would you be okay if just once in a while I just took like 20 minutes and sat in the bedroom? I was like, yeah, of course, like no big deal. But from her perspective, what that was recognizing that she has a need and then planning to meet that need. That's exactly what I'm recommending that you do, right? Maybe for you, like my wife, it's time alone. Maybe for you, like Leslie, and a lot of people, it's exercise, right? One of the things that happens when we have these events is we throw all of our routines and everything out the window. And if you're someone that regularly goes on walks or regularly goes to the gym, work to get that into your schedule. Recognize, wow, this is something I need to feel good, and I'm going to make it a priority, right? When you do this, there's a few things that happen. Hey, Maria, how are you? Good, glad you're here. When you do this, there's a few things that happen. First, one of the ways that this helps is it gives you something to look forward to, right? So when you're, say, at a moment, if you're experiencing a craving, or if you're just not feeling sure of yourself, or you're feeling, just a little on edge, you know that this thing is coming, right? So I remember I coached someone one time. She was a runner, and, we talked about, when you go, for her, it was going to her dad's house. And I said, so what changes? She's like, it really stresses me out. She goes, well, I recognize that I just literally sit there for 3 days. Like, I don't do anything. We sit there and talk and engage, but like, I don't actually do anything. And I said, well, what do you want to be doing? And she goes, oh man, it would be awesome if I could go for a run. It would be fantastic if I could do that. And I was like, well, then why not? Right? Like, go ahead and do it. And that's what she did. And she had a plan. And, remember, she sent me a message while she was at her dad's house, and it was like noon. She's on Eastern time with me. And she sent me a message. She's like, you know what? I went for a run this morning, and now I'm sitting here and I was starting to feel stuck again, but I recognized I have a run tomorrow morning, and now I'm looking forward to it. And suddenly this need that you have seems to be met, and you think, okay, great. Like, now I can engage more with this. So that's one reason that paying attention to your needs makes a difference. The second reason is that as we go through this process with alcohol, one thing that can happen, and it happens a lot and it happens often, is we stop really being able to meet our own needs. And here's what I mean by that, right? So for a long time, maybe alcohol becomes a solution to stress, right? We're stressed out, and we say to ourselves one day, all right, I'm going to have a drink because I'm stressed. So then you go and you do that, and you're like, wow, temporarily I felt better. Your brain makes that connection, and now every time you're stressed, the impulse is to reach for a drink. But as time goes on, the list of things that you reach out for a drink gets longer and longer, right? First it was stress, then maybe it's loneliness or sadness or anger, or tiredness. It could be any number of things. And what happens when over time is that we don't need to really discern the problem, because there's only one solution, right? That one solution ends up being alcohol. And so what this means is that we have really, in a lot of cases, lost the ability to connect with what we want and actually give ourselves that. And so when you start doing this, when you sit down and you say, okay, I absolutely need to work out, right? Like, that's my thing. And then you start figuring out how you can work out while you're gone. You're actually reversing that process, right? And that's the good news, is that we can start meeting our needs. And every time you do that, you're sending a signal to yourself saying, hey, self, I'm taking care of you, right? And this is something that builds momentum. So make a plan, right? Literally get out a pen and paper and write out what it is that you need. There's a lot of different ways to do this. One is you can imagine going to this place and you can spend time thinking about it and looking at it. The other, and figuring out like, all right, what would make this even better? The other way that you can do it, which is also a good way to do it, is to look at what your daily or weekly routine is, and then see in that routine what doesn't fit. Right? Oh man, every time I go away for the holidays, I start eating like crap. Or every time I start going away for the holidays, I don't go for my runs anymore, right? Whatever that might be for you, figure out what that is, and then make a plan. And you don't have to do it every day. You don't have to do it all the time, but doing it occasionally and having that plan there and doing that just for you to meet your own needs makes a massive, massive difference. So, quick recap, right? First, tell someone. Second, express it, talk about it, write about it. Third, make a plan. And this is going to get me to the last one. And it is not going to be a surprise. It's not going to be a surprise to many of you. David says, the lack of alcohol caused my stress. All drinking did was give me back the calmness that not drinking took from me. That's amazing. I love that. So the fourth thing, fourth actual tactic that you can take going into the holidays, going into any travel, going into a really busy season is this. Go easy on yourself. Now, if you have been in our world for a while, me saying this is probably not a surprise whatsoever. But I want you to think about how you can kick it up a notch, right? If you're traveling, what can you do differently for yourself, right? If you recognize, wait a minute, this is going to be a challenge for me. Like, it's going to be tough for me to stay at so-and-so's house. It's going to be tough for me to be in a hotel without drinking or an airport without drinking, right? When you recognize those things, how can you make that easier for yourself, right? What can you do to be kind to yourself in those moments, right? And this isn't something that a lot of us think about very often, right? Normally what we do is we think about, how do I get through this, right? How do I deal with this? If you even listen to the way that I talk about the holidays, it's almost like this is going to be hard and here are some ways you can navigate it. That's great. But one of the best ways is to go easy on yourself. So maybe there's something you can do, right? Can you pack yourself some gifts, right? I was coaching someone one time and there was a book that she had wanted to read all year and she just never really found the time to do it. And it was like, other things popped up. I don't know if you're like me, your reading list is probably very long and you end up with, book after book after book. But there's this one book that kept coming up. And, I asked her, I'm like, how can you go easy on yourself while you're traveling? Like, how can you go easy on yourself this holiday season? And she said, you know what? I'm going to go buy myself that book and I'm going to start reading it then because it's something that I've wanted to do. It's a gift I can give myself. And man, did it feel good for her, right? Or so maybe that's you, or maybe there's a sweater you've been wanting, or maybe you want to get some extra sleep, right? However you can go easy on yourself, whatever gifts you can give to yourself over this time can make a massive difference, right? Pamper yourself a bit. That is completely okay. And there's a few reasons why I recommend this, right? First, it helps you stay comfortable. Second, when I say something like pamper yourself or give yourself a gift, I'm getting you to start thinking about what would that be for me, right? It's fun. It's a way to really check in with yourself and say, why would I do this, right? It helps you stay calm in the midst of something that feels maybe chaotic to you. And again, it sends that message to yourself that you are taking care of yourself, right? It makes a huge difference for you if you're thinking, man, well, how can I give myself a gift? And then you actually do that while you're out and about on your travels. I've had clients do this in so many different ways. I had bacon and caffeine. Ryan, we should hang out, man. Yeah, I love that. But I've had people do this in so many different ways, right? So maybe it is a meal. I had one client, this was a cool story that I actually wanted to tell, but I had one client who said that, you know what, my biggest struggle when I do these things is that I forget, right? Like I just forget that I'm doing it, right? And so I'm in the middle of it and I forget about the work that I've done and I forget about the stuff that I've read in This Naked Mind, the book, and I get kind of swept up in the moment. And I love what this lady did. She took Postit Notes, ripped off the sticky part, threw the sticky parts away, and then with what was left of the note, she wrote herself little notes, right? She wrote herself things like, remember August. For her, August, she had 30 days alcohol free. She felt great, right? She wrote notes that reminded her of the work she's done. She wrote notes that reminded her of the breakthroughs that she's had in our work together. She wrote notes that helped her engage or that helped remind her of what her alcohol-free life was like. And then she took all of those notes and she hid them in all of her stuff, So she put them in pants pockets, and she put them in suitcase pockets, and she put them in her purse. She put them in her car. She, I think she had maybe a dozen of them or so, and she kind of put them all over. And her experience while she was traveling was this, right? She'd run into one once in a while. That's the gift she was giving to herself, was reminding herself in a way that worked for her of the progress that she had made, right? So she was able to go easy on herself because she was constantly reminded, oh, wow, look at this work that I've done, right? Look at where I'm at. So whatever that might look like for you, whether it is extra streak or like Ryan, bacon and coffee, or if it's a gift, however you can do that, give yourself some support, right? Go easy on yourself, pamper yourself, because it's through doing that that you're taking care of yourself. And I'll be honest with you, that's what most of this journey is going to be about. So there you have it. Those are some tactical on the ground things that you can do. First, tell someone, right? If you're going through this and you're traveling, tell someone that you're dealing with it. Tell someone how you feel. And that takes me to number 2, talk about it, right? Talk about it with the people around you, whether you come here and do it online, but express yourself, tell your journal, whatever that might be, have that dialogue going. It is going to help you not only navigate what you're navigating, but it's also going to help you feel better. Number 3, make a plan, right? You've got these different needs that you know that you'll feel better if you meet. Like, make a plan for yourself, right? Figure out how you're going to do that. Are you going to get up and go running in the morning? Are you going to sleep in? Maybe one of your things, I know it's always a thing for me when I travel, is I don't sleep enough. So make a plan for how you're going to achieve it. And then finally, go easy on yourself, right? Pamper yourself. Do things like pack yourself gifts. Have something special that maybe you're going to eat while you're there. I don't know what that's going to be for you. But do something to help you remind yourself of where you're at, and do something to support yourself, because that just keeps reinforcing with your subconscious that, hey, I'm taking care of this. Hey, I'm here. I can do this, right? Those are some actionable tactics that you can take away today and start doing stuff with. So that was part 2 of my thoughts about the holidays. I'd love to hear what you guys think of it. So tell me in the comments. I would love to hear what you think, how it feels, all of it. Tell me. So that is it again for me today. Before I go, though, if moderation is on your mind this holiday season, then I highly recommend heading on over to canimoderate.com and checking out our free 6 vital things you need to know about moderation according to science. We took our experience and our research and put it into this handy guide that will really help as you're, thinking about moderation. We're going to talk about what it actually is. We're going to talk about what science says about it, and we're going to give you some practical tips and steps that you can take if that's what's on your mind for this holiday season. So again, head on over to canimoderate.com. You can get a totally free digital copy of it today. From us, we want you to have it. I hope that this was helpful for all of you. And again, please let me know in the comments, because I definitely want to know. But I hope this was helpful, and I will see you all next week. Take care.